welcome to the Rosa Mystica. And I want to start right away because we have like an hour, and that's wonderful. So we can do what we need to do, but it's compact, it's active, and that's what I like about it too, because then there's a nice flow of events, of possibilities, of ingredients coming to us. So the Rosa Mystica today, we were in the Antarctica. We got ourselves out of it on the way to Europe. Now we're entering on the continent of Europe, and look at the, say, modern day mystical poetry, spiritual poetry, however you want to call it. So there has been a big shift in the last 100 years in the poetry in Europe and the rest of the world too, at least in some scenes, you could say. But anyway, so coming to the point of that, it is like from dogmatic, from institutional expressions like the songbook for the churches, or the poetry that comes with that, with the whole setup of a church, is in fact broken open in the last 70 years and has become more like an individualized expression of one's own experience. Now this is obvious, huh? This is what you recognize for yourself too. Like, you don't have to hold on to a certain form any longer as you were used in church law, for instance. Now it's like free to express yourself. You got yourself set free of the institutionalized ideas of religion. Now what is going on with poetry now then is the individual expression has in fact no set form. But the beauty of it is that it's describing a universal experience. Now this literally goes beyond all limits, literally of creed, of what kind of religion you're coming from, or whatever your ideas are. Like, coming back to your own experience, this becomes the universality in it. Now that's really beautiful. And it's the only way it comes to us now. Like, before, we really trusted a religious institution for what it offered us, and temporarily that seemed to have worked in a certain sense, because you moved on and you got yourself set free of it, coming to your individual experience of your connectedness with Spirit, with God, seeing that there's no separation, not with God, but also not with your brother, that there literally is only one mind. Now that's an amazing discovery, and we don't recognize that really well, is what I discovered. It's like we don't recognize that really well, where we exactly find ourselves in this, up to the point when you start to read poetry, for instance from T.S. Eliot, or from who knows who. Like, you read, you recognize where the one is coming from, and you recognize their experience. Now they seem to be very famous for what they did and what they said, and if you refer it back to your own experience, you say, of course, like, of course, yes, of course you write like this, of course you want to share this, yes, you're one example of it. So in that sense, like, you have no idea where you find yourself in your expression, because, but this will help that we come together and actually take a look at it. Like, this is how advanced the broadening up of your consciousness has already evolved, you could say. That you, for one thing, that you can read the poetry that is given, that you can relate to it with your own experience, and that you can make it yourself. How wonderful is that? And also, like, it is just prayer, it's just an extension of yourself. How lovely as a means to express yourself, not to become a poet, not to become anything. No, just as a direct expression of what you are in your new experience of yourself. Literally, this comes as one of the side effects of your new opened consciousness, with discovering how far you can go with that, how deep this actually is moving you. But then the most simple expressions become like totally valuable. And we said this in the beginning too with Asia, when we heard Sri Aurobindo talk about the poetry, like the development of poetry, or the how do you do this kind of practical direction that he gave. You see that same, like you in fact allow yourself to fly. Like with prose, we saw this week too. With prose, it's still story, but with the poetry, it is literally you fly, and there's no end to where you're going. There's literally no limit there. Now this is all very exciting to me to hear this and read about this, and the preparation was another very joyful experience. So at the same time, doing the daily lesson of A Course in Miracles, reading them, and seeing, oh wow, 184 today is really beautiful to deepen this idea that you already have about using words, and in fact also seeing that they're symbols of symbols, that they're not directly expressing things, but that you certainly need them. Like, what am I using? I'm using words to express myself, but to express something that goes totally beyond it. So I want to read a little bit from 184, the daily lesson, in the reviews then at least, but I read it directly from the lesson itself, 184. And yeah, just listen to this. It's just totally amazing. So here we go. I just love it. Think not you made the world. Yeah? Illusions, yes. But what is true in earth and heaven is beyond your naming. So when you call upon a brother, it is to his body that you make appeal. His true identity is hidden from you by what you believe he really is. His body makes response to what you call him, for his mind consents to take the name you give him as his own. And thus his unity is twice denied, for you perceive him separate from you, and he accepts this separate name as his. It would indeed be strange if you were asked to go beyond all symbols of the world, forgetting them forever. Like you can imagine that was asked. And this is like, yeah, go beyond the words. At least, that's the least you can do. Go beyond the symbols of the world, forgetting them forever. But here it is. It would be strange indeed if you were asked to go beyond all symbols in the world, forgetting them forever, yet were asked to take a teaching function. You have need to use the symbols of the world a while, but be not deceived by them as well. They do not stand for anything at all, and in your practicing it is this thought which will release you from them. So they do not stand for anything at all, and in your practicing it is this thought which will release you from them. They become but means by which you can communicate in ways the world can understand, but which you recognize is not the unity where true communication can be found. Now that's absolutely lovely. So in 12 we continue. God has no name, and yet his name becomes the final lesson that all things are one, and at this lesson does all learning end. All names are unified, All space is filled with truth's reflection. Every gap is closed and separation healed. The name of God is the inheritance He gave to those who chose the teaching of the world to take the place of heaven. In our practicing, our purpose is to let our minds accept what He has given as the answer to the pitiful inheritance you made as fitting tribute to the Son He loves. So 15, here's a prayer. Father, our name is yours. In it we are united with all living things, and you who are the one Creator. What we made and call by many different names is but a shadow we have tried to cast across your own reality. And we are glad and thankful we were wrong. All our mistakes we give to you, that we may be absolved of all effects of our errors seem to have. And we accept the truth you give in place of every one of them. Your name is our salvation and escape from what we made. Your name unites us in the oneness, which is our inheritance and peace. Amen. That's amazing. We use an illusory medium to return back to reality. Well, that's a paradox, right? Talking about paradox. I'm using words who are illusory, who will not represent what we're referring to, will never be a direct expression of the communication, and yet we use it to wake up out of this dream. It's a huge paradox. It's amazing. We use it every day. So this puts the poetry in perspective. This puts also, the thing is still like you go beyond words. You go beyond the names. And there the communication can take place. So don't think it is in a word. And don't think it is in a book. Don't think it is in a talk. Don't think it is in a spoken word. So that's really amazing. If I stand still, you could say, if I'm just using T.S. Eliot because he came up. Like if I'm T.S. Eliot and I call myself a poet, that makes poetry in order to be someone who makes poetry and becomes famous in doing so, being Harvard blah blah and did and that and that and that and that. Then I've identified myself with the illusion of the words, with the illusion of what can never be true.
Les arbres de l'Éternel sont pleins de sève. Sève, vitalité essentielle, un mystérieux mouvement du ciel, source pure de la substance de la terre, nourrie par l'univers. Dans le silence, tu émerges, de tes racines, tu sublimes. En un instant sacré, tu jaillis, aussi secrète qu'une larme. Tu vis. La main du Père, sève tendre, immortelle, la sève de l'univers, de ma joue, ta goutte perle.
The trees of the Lord are full of sap. Sap, essential vitality, a mysterious movement from heaven. pure source of the earth's substance, nourished by the universe. In silence you emerge, from your roots you sublime. In a sacred instant you spring forth, as secret as a tear you live. The hand of the Father, tender sap, immortal, the sap of the universe. From my cheek your tear drops. Thank you everyone for this short meditation. Thank you, Michelle, for your beautiful poem. And yeah, so here we go. We dive into the very fresh poetry of Europe. We just did with Michelle, of course. That's like today made fresh manna. It's really lovely. And so the next part, I want to share a little bit about the shift that I was talking about. I prepared some sheets for that, just not for any other reason than to show what actually happened and how you can look at that, recognizing that in yourself. It's like, oh yeah, yes indeed, that did happen. And to let it go again, of course, not to make it real in that sense. And then I want to read some poetry that I really looked for the last, 70, 100 years through poetry, because we were familiar with poetry, for instance, from the Christian mystics from earlier days. We have spent some time at looking at that, and that's really lovely too. Now, moving closer to this time, I found some expressions from Portugal, from France, from England, and so I want to share that with you. The shift in mystical poetry. Significant shift. Spiritual poetry in general has undergone a significant shift. In Europe, did this shift take place as well? The mystical verse from the Christian mystics was still inundated with dogma. And now here is where you can witness the shift. In the last 70 plus years, poetry started to shift more towards lyrical expressions of lyricals than the individual personal experience, lyrical expressions of personal spiritual experiences. The individual expression of the spiritual experience. There's a noticeable move away from strictly dogmatic or institutional religious expression towards a more personal and introspective spirituality. Poets often explore their own unique spiritual journeys, doubts, and insights, rather than simply reiterating established doctrines. Spiritual, but not religious. This contemporary phenomena is foreshadowed in some poetry that seeks transcendent meaning. Poets might engage with themes of interconnectedness, nature, or an abstract sense of the divine without adhering to a specific creed. The universal experience is brought to expression. Mystical and contemplative elements. One is now free to express lyrical poetry inspired by mystical experiences, silence and contemplation, seeking a direct encounter with the divine or the transcendent beyond intellectual understanding. Now you don't have to hold on. Like, look at the progress you have made. You're not limited by doctrines or by thinking that you have to follow a certain format to express yourself. And maybe that's even the part where it becomes more difficult, like, yeah, what next? Like in fact, you've nothing to hold on to. And there's just a free flow of inspiration that can be expressed through you, but how do you do that? And this is just, say, by standing still with it, by practicing it, by doing exercises with it, it can come to expression. Now, why do I use this? Because Rosa Mystica is set up like in 8 times we come together. Why am I setting this up? Is because I've discovered for myself that to stand still and actually allow inspiration to flow in words that are given is a great experience for yourself. Like it's inevitable that you're going to teach. This we know from the teacher's manual too. It's like it's you teach all the time, whether you teach as a teacher of God or whether you teach as a human being. You constantly teach. Now, to use the words and the insights that are given to you, that you have received already, and use that to, in fact, express yourself as a teacher of God, being inspired by the divine, being the extension of the divine, can really move you like to great heights and deep depths, and in that, basically in expressing that freedom of doing that, something shifts in when you read it, when you share it. It's really a beautiful way of teaching, is what I'm saying. And so that's of course why poets started to write their own individual expression too, because it's more like how the more I'm open, the more I'm free of my previous ideas and come into pure expression, like the clearer the light in it is. Not that the words themselves do something, but more like you, like we said in the beginning, like the poetry is a form of flying. It can bring you to great heights. Now it's really great to be uplifted in the expressions used in, for instance, as what Michelle was sharing. Like in that expression, your mind cannot follow it any longer. You go beyond your intellect, and suddenly you see the tear on your cheek as the tear of your brother, or like everything is connected, and that's so lovely. So this is how we use that, and that's why I love this miracle poetry that we're doing. It's like an healing possibility, because in fact, in order to hear it, you need to release your ideas about yourself and come to a different experience. Europe. Now, Europe looks like this, isn't it beautiful? See in the background, you see the map of Europe. So it's France, it's England, so it's not Europe any longer, but it's still very much Europe. Holland, Italy, and Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria. Oh, no. Like 40 countries are united, I think, something like this. I don't know. A lot. Now I came first to Austria, and I met with Rainer Maria Rilke, and he shared a love song with me. Love song. When my soul touches yours, a great chord sings. How shall I tune it then to other things? Oh, that some spot in darkness could be found that does not vibrate when your your depths sound, whenever your depths sound. But everything that touches you and me waltzes as played strings sound one melody. Where's the instrument whence the sound flow? And who's the master's hand that holds the bow? Oh, sweet song. When my soul touches yours, a great chord sings. How shall I tune it then to other things? Oh, that some spot in darkness could be found that does not vibrate whenever your depths sound. But everything that touches you and me waltzes as played strings sound one melody. Where's the instrument whence the sound flows? And who's the master hand that holds the bow? Oh, sweet song. So you see, I wrote them in my notebook. Oops. So here's another song. But this is from Fernandes Pessoa. He's from Portugal, but this was translated into English. There's a silence where the town was old. Grass grows where not a memory lies below. We that dined loud are sand. The tale is old. The tale is told. The far hooves hush. The inn's last night doth go. The work is done. The hammer is laid down. The artisans that build the slow-grown town have been succeeded by those who still build. All this is something, lack of something screening. The thought whole has no meaning, but lies by time's wall like a pitcher spilled. Love, love, my love, thou art already a god. This thought of mine, which I a wish believe, is no wish but a sight to me allowed by the great gods that love and can give to mortal hearts under the shape of wishes having undiscovered reaches, a vision of the real things beyond. Our life, imprisoned life, our sense-bound sense. What I wish thee to be, thou art now, already on Olympic ground. Thou walkest and art perfect, yet art thou, for thou needst no excess of thee to done. Perfect be, being perfection. So, from the British American poet T.S. Eliot. At a still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at a still point there the dance is, but neither a rest nor movement. And do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. there would be no dance. And there is only the dance. I can only say, there we have been, but I cannot say where. And I cannot say how long, for that is to place it in time. The inner freedom from the practical desire, the release from action and suffering, release from the inner, and the outer compulsion yet surrounded by a grace of sense, a white light still and moving, Erhebung without motion, concentration without elimination, both a new world and the old made explicit, understood. In the completion of its partial ecstasy, the resolution of its partial horror, yet the enchainment of past and future, woven in the weakness of the changing body, protects mankind from heaven and damnation, which flesh cannot endure. Time past and time future allow but a little consciousness. To be conscious is not to be in time, but only in time can the moment in the rose garden, the moment in the arbor where the rain beat, the moment in the draughty church at smokefall, be remembered, involved with past and future. Only through time, time is conquered. And I put a special note there, like only through the miracle is time conquered, is time undone. But that didn't, T.S. Eliot didn't say that. So this was the poetry that I wanted to share with you right now. And it's great to discover, like you just don't know what will come to you, but if you discover something that is true, like when you can relate to it in recognition of your own experience, it's really lovely. All right, so this was what I wanted to share in the Rosa Mystica Europe today. So the next step will be the non-public part in this